14. We got 14 games tomorrow, including 1, 2, 3. There's 4 matinee games. Technically, kind of sort of 5, in that one starts at 3:30 my time, 6:30 Eastern, which is obnoxious. So what'll happen tomorrow? And again, I do this just in case there's newbies watching. I watch as much as I can. There's 4 matinee games. I will watch the matinee games, do the review of the matinee games, and then the other 10 games will be in a separate video afterwards. So I will miss parts of the 3:30 and maybe a little bit of the games that start at 4. There's a lot of games that start at 4 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock Eastern. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. Columbus is in against the Ottawa Senators. This is really interesting. So you've got Anthony Duclair against John Tortorella. Let's see how this works out. 12-14-5 is the record for Columbus. They're really not much better than Ottawa right now in overall record. They were 5-5-2 in October, 6-6-2 in November, and in December they're 1-3-1. On the Ottawa side of the board, they're 13-17-2, so they're coming along nicely. And really, in all honesty, may get more points than last year. In October, 3-7-1. In November, 8-8-1. And in December, 8-8-0, and in December they're 2-2-1. Pretty good record overall. Again, considering that they're overmatched a lot of the time, and we can agree that they don't have a lot of the top-end talent, but they're a very hard-working team. I think Columbus is too, and Columbus is also lacking in goal scoring. This should be a very low-scoring game overall. Overall leaders, Nyquist, 7 goals, 12 assists. Dubois, 10 goals, 8 assists. Atkinson, 7 goals, 11 assists. On the blue line, Seth Jones with 4 goals, 13 assists. So I just went with the basic with 3 top scorers on each team among the forwards and the top scoring defensemen. And I apologize if that seems at all repetitive, but looking over the last 5, over the last 10 games, when you're looking on Daily Faceoff or sites that update, they may not update until the morning, which is fine, but it means that since there's a couple of teams that played tonight that play tomorrow as well, I will just look at the overall stats from NHL.com. Goaltending, Korpisalo a .906 save percentage, Merzlikins 894. I think Korpisalo's better than his numbers. On the Ottawa side, Nilsson, 912 save percentage, Anderson 901, and Hogberg 925. So Hogberg may be that ace in the hole for them down the road. We'll see. If I had to pick a winner in this one, I would probably go with Ottawa. Just, they're such a hard-working bunch. And I know there's Ottawa fans that want to see them lose a whole lot and get that number 1 draft pick, but they may have 2 top draft picks if San Jose doesn't pull out of their current funk. So Ottawa may be perfectly fine coming out of this year's draft, and Melnick may be there on the stage going, this is what I knew was going to happen. We traded Carlson. I knew that draft pick coming back from San Jose was going to be awesome. All right, next up, Buffalo in against the Islanders. This one starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, my time, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern as well. So if you're in Europe, you're in luck. You've got a chance to see 4 games in relatively decent, not next early hours of the morning time for you guys. 16-11-6 is the record for Buffalo. They're in against the Islanders, who are 21-7-2. The Islanders playing pretty darn well. Now, that being said, Buffalo, 9-2-2 in October, 3-8-3 in November, 4-1-1 in December. If you can wipe out November, they have an excellent record. They'd be 13-3-3. It doesn't really work that way, though. Calendars won't allow you to eliminate a month. That doesn't happen. On the Islanders side of things, October, 8-3, except in the War of 1812. We've been over this. 8-3 in October for the New York Islanders, 9-2-2 in November, and in December, 4 wins and 2 losses. So both of these teams are coming in playing pretty well. The Islanders thrive on kind of pulling the life out of the game and keeping it low scoring. And for Buffalo, it's all about let Jack Eichel run free. Eichel, 22 goals, 24 assists for 46 points to lead the team. Olofsson, 13 goals, 16 assists. He's come along very nicely the last few weeks. Reinhart, 12 goals, 15 assists. The thing with Olofsson at the start of the year was power play goals, and that's what it was. But as the season's gone along, he got his passing in gear, and now he's getting some regular, even strength goals, and now he's got a power play goal again in recent games. So it's really getting together for him. Dahlin, 1 goal, 16 assists on the blue line. Goaltenders, Ullmark, 916, Hutton, 901. Ullmark's definitely the better goaltender in Buffalo, and I really think he's going to get the lion's share of games, and so he should. On the Islanders side, goaltenders will be rotated at all times. Don't ask questions. Barzell's their leading scorer with 13 goals, 14 assists. Brock Nelson. 11 goals, 12 assists for him. Bailey, 8 goals, 14 assists. On the blue line, Pulock, 4 goals and 11 assists as he quietly has a very good season. Grace, a .932 save percentage. Varlamov, .926 save percentage. The numbers with the goaltenders for the Islanders, kind of ridiculous. They're pretty darn good at this goaltending thing and turning goaltenders around. Varlamov was kind of left to go by Colorado, and a lot of us wondered, why are they picking up Varlamov and letting go of Leonard? Turns out they've got the goalie whisperer, so they're fine. It's not a big deal. Next up, Carolina's in against Calgary. Nice thing about this is, on Saturdays very often I get just crushed with all these games starting at the same time, and it'll happen again tomorrow. But we have 2 games starting at 10 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock Eastern, and then 3 hours later there's 2 more games starting. So I will get a chance to watch as much of these games as possible. Now, Carolina's 19-11-2, and they've really started to pick it up again. I know they should be 20-11-1. I know. 8-3-1 in October, 8-7 in November, 3-1-1 in December. So Carolina's playing very, very well. Calgary is playing excellent hockey as well. This could very well be the game of the day. 18-12-4 now for the Calgary Flames. They were 7-6-2 in October, 6-6-2 in November. They've got 5 wins and 5 games in December. So while we may not like how they changed coaches and how all this has happened, the team has really galvanized. Now, whether it's around what's happened or if it's despite what's happened, or it's to, show that their new coach, they have some faith in him and get that interim tag removed from Jeff Ward. Whatever it is, it's working, so don't touch anything. On the Carolina side, Svechnikov leads them in scoring with 13 goals, 21 assists. Teravainen, 7 goals, 24 assists, 31 points. Aho, 18 goals and 11 assists. Hamilton, 11 goals, 19 assists for 30 points. He's been slower over the last, say, 10-plus games. But you know what? His numbers are still pretty good. Dougie Hamilton, it's an odd thing. Every year of his career, he scores more goals than the year prior. And I think if he does it again this year, where his goals go up again, I think that's a new NHL record. It's one of those weird, bizarre things. I'm pretty sure that it's an NHL record if he does it again. Mrazek, 906 save percentage. Somebody's going to go look it up. Reimer, 918 save percentage. And somebody's going to think Shannon just doesn't know what that can't be a thing. Yeah, every year he gets more goals. It's really weird. Not necessarily more points, but definitely more goals. Reimer's got the better numbers than Mrazek. The difference, though, between the two is really cosmetic. Reimer's just had a couple of really good games that have ballooned his stats. Whoever goes in, you're getting an equal chance of a win there. On the Calgary front, Monahan, 10 goals, 18 assists, leads the team. Tkachuk, 12 goals, 15 assists. Johnny Gaudreau, who seems to be getting it together, 9 goals, 17 assists. Mark Giordano leads the defenseman with 4 goals and 13 assists. Riddick, 914 save percentage, and Talbot is up to a 907. Wasn't that long ago we were talking about a really low save percentage for Cam Talbot and a win-loss record that was pretty scary. But the last couple of starts, he's really turned it around, and he looks pretty darn good. We'll see if he's able to do it again tomorrow night. Next up, Rangers in against Anaheim. And again, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Should be a fun one. The Rangers are 16-12-3. They have to feel pretty good after coming out of that win over the San Jose Sharks. The Ducks are 13-15-4, coming off of a loss that had to smart against the LA Kings, their arch rivals. Now they're back home. I know, LA's a mile away. Now, the Rangers in October, 4-5-1. In November, 9-4-2. And in December, 3-3. So overall, their numbers aren't that bad. And the Rangers are staying in the hunt. So they're not going on these tremendously long winning streaks. They had a great November. Their October and December, middling. But that November was good enough. They're still really in the hunt. Now, on the Anaheim side, 8-6 in October, 3-6-4 in November, and 2-3 in December. And, of course, that last game was a loss to the road team of the LA Kings. But the tough part of that was the LA Kings couldn't beat anybody on the road. And Anaheim was that team that sadly broke that losing streak for the Kings. So either they were being gracious hosts or whatever it was, it didn't work out so well for Anaheim. Scoring front, Panarin, 18 goals, 23 assists, 41 points, leads the Rangers. Strome, 6 goals, 21 assists for 27 points. Zibanejad, 9 goals and 19 points. 10 of his points are assists. D'Angelo, 7 goals, 15 assists, 22 points on the blue line. Pretty decent numbers for him. Georgiev has a .923 save percentage. Lundqvist has a .911 save percentage, and honestly, Georgiev should be, and I think will be, the starter. On the Anaheim side, Getzlaf, 10 goals, 15 assists. Silverberg, 11 goals, 11 assists. Raquel, 9 goals, 12 assists. Rickard Raquel is a guy that I'm starting to wonder if he needs a change of scenery or something needs to change for him, because 9 goals seems low. This is a guy who should be a 30-goal scorer every year. Not sure what's going on with him in Anaheim, but it just seems like it's not clicking the way that it should be. Fowler, 6 goals, 10 assists, leads the blue line in that statistic. Gibson, .910 save percentage. Miller, a .908 save percentage. Those numbers are actually lower than one might expect, and they are somewhat troubling. But Gibson, he's looked better the last week or so, and he'll get it back. There's no question in my mind about that. Miller, on the other hand, at this stage, as his career winds down, you just never know. That being said, I now need to change boards. Dallas. Now, I don't normally, for previews, wear a jersey of a team that's against a team I cheer for. In this case, I think Nashville has a good chance to win this one tomorrow. This one starts at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, so this is the one that I will likely miss the start of while I'm doing the review of the first 4 games tomorrow. Dallas is now 18, 11 and 3. Or no, 11 and 4. That's right, they're 18, 11 and 4. I knew that site hadn't updated. And the interesting thing is, I decided to put down that they had lost in regulation, because when they struggle to score, sometimes I have that blind spot. So they lost in overtime. So they're 18, 11 and 4. The Nashville Predators are 14, 11 and 5, and this is an excellent opportunity for them to make up some ground on a team they need to catch. Now, Dallas has been all over the map. They were 5-8-1 in October, 10-2-1 in November, 3-1-2 so far in December. On the Nashville front, 14-11 and 5 overall, comes from 8-3-2 in October, 4-7-2 in November, 2-1-1 in December. We're at that stage where if Nashville's going to turn around and make the playoffs and make some statements, this is a good statement game because Dallas is on the second game in 2 nights. Scoring leaders, Sagan for Dallas with 6 goals, 18 assists. Radulov, 9 goals, 10 assists. And Jamie Benn, 7 goals, 9 assists. You expect them to be the top 3 scorers. You expect higher totals from all 3. That's kind of an expectation, and rightfully so. Heiskanen leads the blue line with 7 goals, 14 assists. No complaints about Miro Heiskanen this year. Bishop, .933 save percentage. Hudobin, .922. Bishop played tonight. Odds are Hudobin plays tomorrow. That doesn't bode well either because he doesn't get the goal support from Dallas, and he hasn't been as good as Bishop either. Now, on the Nashville front, Järnkrok leads them in scoring with 11 goals, 11 assists. He's tied with Forsberg for that number. Calle Järnkrok is very low-key having an amazing season. I've been wanting to put together a video of guys having low-key amazing seasons, but it's usually right around game time, and I'm like, if I put the stats up for these guys and everything, it's going to change tonight. So it's one of those things that might be better off waiting for the Christmas break to do these lists of players and just rifle through a bunch of lists. I think that could be a lot of fun. Duchesne, 8 goals, 13 assists. My idea of fun during Christmas break is different for most people. So Duchesne, 8 goals, 13 assists, 21 points. He's played, I believe, 29 games. Yossi leads the blue line, 7 goals, 19 assists, 26 points overall. Goaltending, Rene, 897 save percentage. Saros, 894 save percentage. Those numbers need to come up. I believe that they will. Whether it starts tomorrow or not, I'm not sure, but I do know Dallas struggles to score, so odds are they probably start to come up tomorrow night. And struggling to score has kind of been a Dallas thing for 2+ years, so we'll see if they get it going tomorrow. Next up, and now we're into the 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern starts. Detroit's in against Montreal. The Detroit Red Wings probably feeling pretty good about themselves. They're now 8-22-3. They were 4-8-1 in October, 3-11-2 in November. They have 1 win in December to go with 3 losses. So all kidding aside, there is a self-respect thing, there is a pride thing that takes over, and I have a feeling that may have been part of what took over against Winnipeg the other night. I would hope so. On the Montreal front, they're 15-11-6, and they've got some pride stuff going on right now too. 7-4-2 in October, 4-5-4 in November. They know they weren't good enough. They're 4-2 so far in December. If they can come out tomorrow night and deal with Detroit and go to 5-2 in November, or in December, I should say, Things are looking up for them. And really, in general, I think Montreal absolutely is a threat for a playoff spot, as pretty much everybody is in the Atlantic that's not Detroit or Ottawa, right? So, scoring leaders for Detroit: Bertuzzi, 10 goals, 15 assists. Mantha, 12 goals, 11 assists. Larkin, 8 goals, 12 assists. Hronek on the blue line, 7 goals and 10 helpers. They've had 4 goalies in the Detroit net. Bernier, 890 save percentage. Howard, 887 save percentage when he got hurt. Pickard went in for 1 game, had an 829 save percentage. They said he's going. Comrie in 2 appearances has an 853 save percentage. Their goaltending right now kind of reminds me of Philadelphia's last year. And looking at this when I was writing up on the board, I thought, now who's going to be that 5th goalie? You know, at some point this season, there has to be another goalie that comes in here, right? There has to be 5. And then on the Montreal side, Tatar, 11 goals, 17 assists, leads the team in scoring. Gallagher, 14 goals, 12 assists. Dano, 7 goals, 18 assists on the blue line. Shea Weber, 10 goals, 16 assists. Turns out he's a pretty good defenseman. And I've always said, Weber, as long as he can stay healthy, great. We need to see a full season of him healthy. So far, so good. Knock on wood. Price, 905 save percentage. That needs to be overall better. $10.5 million cap hit. Kincaid, 875 save percentage. His $1.7 million cap hit right now is in the minors. At least, well, the cap hit's not entirely in the minors. That's not how it works, but 925 grand's in the minors. The other 800 grand stays with the team. Primo, 931 save percentage. Turns out he's not overwhelmed after all. And I think if this Primo and Price tandem works, Montreal should be working the phone to get rid of Kincaid's money as soon as possible. It'll be interesting to see what Montreal does from here. Because again, if Primo plays well, this is a team that needs to make the playoffs in Montreal. So if Primo gets you closer, you got to go with him. And there are some young goaltenders that are in that position. Next up, Capitals in against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Capitals are an insane 23-5-5. It's obnoxious. It's kind of sort of obnoxious. Now in October, they're 9-2-3. In November, 10-2-2. And in December, 4-1. It's been a great run for them. And they're making it tough for me with the power rankings. I'm going to be honest. They really are. Now on the Tampa Bay side, they're 16-11-3. Maybe this is the month they get it together, right? October, 6-4-2. And I said maybe November. November, they're 6-5-1. Now I'm saying maybe December, they're 4-2. If they can beat Washington at home, that is a huge statement for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now for the Capitals, there's not really a whole lot of pressure on them right now. But if the Islanders continue to stay hot, that pressure could show up as soon as, I'll say, within a week. Now, scoring leaders among the forwards for the Capitals: Ovechkin, 21 goals, 12 assists. He just scores goals. That's what he does. Kuznetsov, 12 goals, 19 assists. Vrana, 15 goals, 13 assists on the blue line. Karlsson, 12 goals, 33 assists for 45 points. In net, Holtby, 911 save percentage. Samsonov, 917 save percentage. Doesn't matter who's in net. They're both pretty good. On the Tampa Bay side, Kucherov leads them in scoring with 10 goals, 23 assists. So he has 33 points in, I think it's 29 games, and there's people talking about how slow of a start he's off to. And that's when you know you've arrived. Stamkos, 13 goals, 16 assists. Killorn, 9 goals, 15 assists to round out the top 3 forwards. Hedman, 7 goals, 21 assists on the blue line. Vasilevsky has a 910 save percentage. McElhinney has an 898. Interestingly enough, before their last game, I believe it was Jack Edwards talking about Vasilevsky, and he said everybody around Tampa Bay says his numbers may be down, but he's as good as ever. Recently, yes. To start the season, no. So he's got back to where he should be. His numbers should continue to move up, but tomorrow night he's going to get quite the task with the Capitals. So game of the day may very well be that matchup between Calgary and Carolina. The game of the night may very well be this one right here. This could be a fantastic, fast, skilled game where you've got a star Russian on one side, a star Russian on the other, and both have pretty good defensemen in Hedman and Karlsson, and big-name goaltenders with Holtby and Vasilevsky. This could be a really good game. Next up, Boston in against Florida. Again, this one starts at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, so a half an hour after this one starts, we start getting into the craziness that is Hockey Night in Canada. 27-6 is the record for the Boston Bruins. It has got a lot worse in the month of December. In October, they were 9-1-2. In November, 9-2-3, and I worried that it was too easy for them. So December showed up. They're 2-4-1 in December. No team goes through an 82-game schedule without one of these moments, and I think that's what it's been. I was debating about whether or not to wear a Boston one for this preview, but I don't know that they're ready to come out of this yet. I don't want to make that kind of a statement. Florida's 15-11-5. In October, they're 6-3-4. November, 7-5-1. And in the month of December, they're 2-3. So Florida wanting to turn things around, same as Boston. I kind of like Florida at home in this one, to be honest. Scoring leaders, Marchand, 18 goals, 30 assists, 48 points to lead the Bruins. Pastrnak, 26 goals, 20 assists, 46 points. Bergeron, 10 goals, 16 assists, 26 points up front. It's worthy of note that Pastrnak has 2 goals in the last 7 games and that they've kind of struggled over those 7 games. It's not a coincidence. Krug, 14 goals, 16 assists, leads the blue line. In net, Tuukka Rask, 926 save percentage. Halak, 927. On the Florida side of things, Huberdeau, 11 goals, 26 assists, 37 points, leads the team. Barkov, 10 goals, 26 assists, 36 points. I know everybody says, oh, he's underrated. If all of us agree he's underrated, he's not underrated. Dadonov, 12 goals, 12 assists, rounds out the forwards. That's not how underrated works. If everybody gets together and they go, we all agree this guy's fantastic, he's not underrated. On the blue line, Yandel, 3 goals, 23 assists, leads the blue liners for the Florida Panthers. And in net, Bobrovsky, 899 save percentage. He's getting better. Montembeault, the 889 save percentage, got usurped by Drieger, who has a 942 save percentage. So we'll see what Florida does tomorrow against Boston. That should be a fun one as well between division rivals. And for Boston, it's time to stop the slump. Because what was a huge 12-point lead is now 8, and that can shrink to 6. And at 6 points, that's when you start to panic on some level somewhat. But I don't have a panic index right now, so you'll just have to take my word for it. That being said, I'm going to change boards. And we're up to 3 more games that start at 4 o'clock. So, for those keeping track, 4 o'clock Pacific, I mean, there's 6 games starting at 4 o'clock Pacific, 1 that started at 3:30 Pacific. You can understand why I'd go, you know what, I might as well just do the review of the matinee games, because keeping up with 7 games at once is craziness. The Kings have a 13-18-2 record, speaking of crazy. They were 4-9 in October, and then they made the cardinal sin of giving their fans hope by going 7-5-2 in November, and they've squashed that hope with a 2-4 record so far in December. Now they're in Pittsburgh against a Penguins team that doesn't matter who's playing. We could find out before the game that Bob Airey's going to be in the lineup, and they're going to bring Rick Kehoe out of retirement. He's going to play a couple of shifts. I don't think it matters. They're 18-10-4 overall. They were 8-5 in October, 6-4-4 in November, 4-1 in December without players. They won their last game against Columbus. And I think that might be part of what made John Tortorella clearly ticked off with his players, is here they were without Malkin and Crosby, and you managed 17 shots. How do you manage 17 shots against that? And I tell you how. Pittsburgh plays really fantastic hockey, and they seem to be better when they're hurt. Now, on the scoring front for the Kings, Kopitar leads with 11 goals and 18 assists. Brown, 7 goals, 10 assists. Toffoli also has 7 goals and 10 assists. On the blue line, Drew Doughty, 6 goals, 15 assists. He leads them in that area with 21 points. Goaltenders, Jonathan Quick, 893 save percentage. He's better than that save percentage would tell you. Campbell, 891 save percentage. On the Pittsburgh side, Jake Gensel, still proving people wrong. 17 goals, 16 assists, 33 points. Gensel doesn't even need line mates. Maybe he's a pretty good goal scorer without Malkin or Crosby. Malkin, 8 goals, 19 assists. I think he's only played like 10 games so far this year. Rust, I'm just kidding. And Rust, who hasn't played as many games as he would want either. 10 goals, 9 assists for him. Great season for him when he's been healthy. On the blue line, Letang, 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points to lead Pittsburgh in that category. Murray has an 897 save percentage. Tristan Jarry has a 941 save percentage. Jarry's playing fantastic. Yeah, it's a hot streak. Goalies do this. But you know what? Jarry's playing fantastic, so you ride the hot hand. So we'll see how long this goes. I would think if you're going to put Matt Murray in, you do it tomorrow night because it's a Kings team that has trouble scoring, and on the road they have one win in their last, I think it's 75 games. I might be off by a few, but I think it's one win in their last 75 road games. So we'll see how it goes for them in Pittsburgh tomorrow. Maybe LA can continue the winning streak on the road they started in Anaheim. They started right next to home, and now they're nowhere near home with the Penguins. But it's still a bird. Maybe they're only allowed to beat teams that have birds for their logo. Right? Maybe that's what it is. All right, moving along. Philadelphia's in against Minnesota. Now, I had thought about wearing a Philadelphia jersey because of Lindblom. And I thought, no, for the previews, I wear a jersey of a team I think is going to win. I will say this. We will see some character from them tomorrow. I would be very surprised if they don't have a patch on their jersey for him. I would be very surprised if this team doesn't galvanize around the fact that one of their best players was diagnosed with bone cancer, which is scary. This isn't a knee injury. This isn't a quad injury. This isn't something that you can recover from, and it's not a big deal. This is serious. And I'm sure he'll be treated, and 99.9% sure he'll be back and healthy and everything will be fine. Not likely this season, but it is something that's scary to hear. So they're 17-9-5, and for Minnesota, they get the unenviable task of trying to knock off this team. Well, you have to think Minnesota hockey players are human, and they talk to each other. So I'm sure there will be some discussion between these players and these players before the game, like, hey, guys, we're right there with you. Lots of players were tweeting out today about Lindblom and support for him. So it'll be interesting to see how the pregame goes between these teams. Now, Philadelphia is 5-5-1 in October, 10-2-4 in November, 2-2 in December so far, so a little bit shakier in December. On the Minnesota side, 15-12-5 overall. They've really turned it around. They were 4-9 in October and looked dead in the water. Then 7-2-4 in November, 4-1-1 in December, and they're alive. Now, on the Philadelphia side of things, Konechny's their leading scorer with 11 goals, 17 assists. Not playing. Couturier, 8 goals, 15 assists. I still say he's their MVP when he's playing well. They win. Giroux, 10 goals, 12 assists. They need more from Giroux for the rest of the season. Provorov leads their defenseman with 7 goals and 12 assists. On the Minnesota side, Zucker, 12 goals, 11 assists. Stahl, 9 goals, 14 assists. Zuccarello, 7 goals and 11 assists to round out the forwards. Suter, 3 goals, 15 assists for 18 points on the blue line. Goaltenders, on the Philadelphia side, Hart, 908 save percentage. Elliott, 915. Hart's better than that save percentage. I really think that's going to come up as the season goes along. On the Minnesota side, Stalock is 906 save percentage. Dubnyk, 893 save percentage. Kakkonen, 925 save percentage, and he's 3-0-1. So when Dubnyk and Stalock are your top two guys, do you really want to send him down when he's got the record like that? I don't think you do. So it becomes an uncomfortable situation if he keeps putting up wins, especially against Edmonton. So he had that game against Edmonton. He didn't necessarily play fantastic, but they won it. So do you want to send down a guy who's winning games? That's where things get interesting for Minnesota. All right, moving along. Toronto. The Maple Leafs are in against the Oilers tomorrow night. This does start at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. So for Oiler fans, you get to have the early game because you got Toronto in the barn. And this should be a really interesting game. Toronto, it's been a shaky month. And yet there are things in Toronto's game that you can look at and say, that's a reason to believe things are going to turn around. Sheldon Keefe has the right idea. Now, for the Oilers, they've been tops in the division for most of the season. Now they're second in the division, and it seems a little bit shakier as Calgary's on this amazing upswing. So we'll see what happens with these teams tomorrow night. Now, Toronto in their 15-14-4 record, they were 6-5-3 in October, 7-6-1 in November. They are 2-3 so far in December. On the Oilers front, they're 18-12-4 overall. They were 9-4-1 in October, 7-5-2 in November. They're 2-3-1 in December. So both of these teams with sub-500 records coming into tomorrow night's game. This should be a fun one, and it should be pretty fiery. And we may see some goals in this game as well. Matthews leads Toronto with 19 goals, 15 assists for 34 points. Tavares, 13 goals, 12 assists, 25 points. Marner, 5 goals, 19 assists, 24 points. On the blue line, Riley, 3 goals, 18 assists, 21 points. Goaltenders, Anderson, 918 save percentage. Now there's word they're not looking for a backup, and Anderson's going to play a lot of games. Hutchinson, 876 save percentage. Kaskasuo, 842 save percentage. The interesting thing about that is we saw a couple years ago, if Anderson's overplayed, he'll start to plateau and then his play goes down. And you don't want that from a team that needs to make the playoffs, and they're not sitting in a playoff spot right now. On the Oilers front, Draisaitl, 20 goals, 37 assists, 57 points. Or McDavid, I should say, has a 57 points. Pshaw. Draisaitl, 20 goals, 35 assists, 55 points. So McDavid has that lead back in this dogfight for the Art Ross between two teammates who don't really care who wins the Art Ross. It's about getting to the playoffs and winning something when you get there. And James Neal, 15 goals, 7 assists, 22 points. Rounds out your top 3 forwards. Klefbom, 3 goals, 18 assists on the blue line for 21 points. Koskinen, 914 save percentage. Smith, 896. Those numbers have been coming down. And I do think there's a reason for concern with kind of both goalies, the way they've played the last, say, 10 days especially. And the overall record for Edmonton has started to look kind of spotty. We'll see how long this is maintained. But if you look at it this way, they've got 9 wins, 8 losses, and 3 overtime or shootout losses in the last, like, from November 1st until now. That means they've lost more than 10 of their games. Or they've lost more games than they've won. They've lost 11 games, they've won 9. I'll get there. It'll happen. I'm just tired. That's what happens. Had turkey. So turkey, of course, has that whole effect of making you really sleepy. So I went back for seconds, but I only had seconds of the stuffing, not the turkey. And it's okay for my diet because since it's all homemade, there's no calories in it. People don't know that, right? All right. Next up, Chicago and St. Louis. There's people out there saying that's not how it works. I know. Chicago, denial's wonderful. 12-14-6 for Chicago, 19-8-6 for St. Louis. The Blues will have zero sympathy for the Chicago Blackhawks and their recent difficulties. And Chicago would really enjoy going into St. Louis and silencing the Blues crowd. They really would. They want to make sure that when that John Denver song is played, as few people are singing along as possible. Because if Take Me Home Country Roads has everybody singing late in that third period tomorrow, it means St. Louis is probably winning. And the Blackhawks want to make sure that's not going to happen. Chicago to get here in October, they were 3-6-2 in November, 7-5-3, and in December 2-3-1 so far. On the St. Louis front, October 7-3-3, November 10-2-3, and in December they're also 2-3. So St. Louis really kind of sort of needs this, and they were passed by Colorado tonight. If they lose in regulation tomorrow, Colorado's kind of got a claim to being the best team in the division, if not the best team in the league. Let the debate rage on. Leading scorers, Patrick Kane, 14 goals, 22 assists for 36 points for Chicago. DeBrincat, 8 goals, 15 assists, and Dylan Strome with 7 goals, 14 assists. On the blue line, Gustafsson leads the way there with 3 goals and 8 assists. Goaltenders, Leonard, 926 save percentage, Crawford, 909 save percentage. I think Leonard's made a pretty good argument that he should stay as a Chicago goaltender if they have to choose between the two. Crawford has been a fantastic presence in their net, but if they could only keep one, I would think keeping Leonard would be the way to go. That being said, I do suspect that next season Crawford would take a pay cut to stay in Chicago if that was necessary. On the St. Louis front, Perron, 12 goals, 18 assists. O'Reilly, 6 goals, 22 assists. Shen, 14 goals, 12 assists. On the blue line, Pietrangelo, 7 goals, 16 assists. Bennington has a 921 save percentage. Allen has a 925 save percentage. It's bizarre world where Jake Allen has a better save percentage than Jordan Bennington. That qualifies to me as bizarre world. And we're there. And it's part of the reason that St. Louis has been so good this year. They have 2 good goaltenders, but so does Chicago. So this could be a lot of fun. Chicago is allowing too many shots. That's part of their problem, is that if I included goals against average, which I don't believe in including, both Leonard and Crawford, you'd see a higher goals against average, and there's too many shots coming in at them. That's why I don't really. Goals against average, I understand it's been an institution in the NHL forever. I've abolished it in my previews and reviews. I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but I don't pay any attention to goals against average. I think it's an overrated statistic, and I apologize because there's an award given out to goals against average. Although that's for team goals against average, which I think says something. The team goals against average I think is important, but an individual goalie, there's so many different factors in what can make a goalie's goals against go up or go down. Save percentage is pretty consistent in telling you who the better goalies are, although people will deny that as well. And that's the wonderful thing about statistics. We can all analyze them differently. That being said, I do need to change boards one last time. I want to come out of that pause with an apology. I've got Take Me Home Country Road stuck in my head now, and I realize that there's going to be a lot of people who view this video and have the same problem, and I apologize. I don't know any of the words except the chorus. So all you get stuck in your head is the chorus. And it's not a song that I necessarily want to know the rest of the words to. Don't you do it. So, anyways, yeah, I apologize to everybody. At 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, or at 5 o'clock Pacific, sorry, there's not a 1 hour difference between Eastern and Pacific. I may be tired. 5 o'clock Pacific, the New Jersey Devils are in against Arizona. So, hey, New Jersey, you lost against Colorado. Here's the good news. You go from the best team in the Central to the best team in the Pacific. At least that's what the standings tell us right now. For New Jersey, it's been a disaster. 9-17-5 overall. In October, 2-5-3. November, 7-7-1. And in December, 5-1. I wonder why Taylor Hall wants out. Wonder why that would be. He hasn't asked for a trade. Of course not. But I don't think he'll turn one down either. Now, on the Arizona front, 19-11-4 is the record overall. In October, 7-4-1. November, 8-5-3. And in December, 4-2. Do you know what I like about what Arizona's doing? Arizona hasn't had any one month where they've been dominant. They really haven't. They've just been really good every month. Not this dominant, huge run. And one of the benefits of this is without that really big 9, 10, 15 game kind of winning streak, it doesn't go to your head. You have enough losses along the way that your coach has stuff to tell you and you're going to listen. And you don't get a big head about it. You don't have an ego. You just kind of have to keep going at it. So I really like what Arizona's doing right now. I think this is kind of fantastic. This is kind of a perfect setup. If they can be, say, 3 games above 500 every month, around 500 every month, and they end up getting themselves into the playoffs with around 100 points, I would not want to play them in the playoffs at all. Leading scorers for New Jersey, technically it's still Taylor Hall with 6 goals, 19 assists. Technically, at the time I'm recording this, he is still a member of the New Jersey Devils. I checked 4 different websites before I started this preview, so if he gets traded during this preview, I'm going to be angry. Palmieri, 11 goals, 8 assists, and then it'd be why this late at night at Eastern? Why? 11 goals, 8 assists for Palmieri. Coleman, 9 goals, 7 assists, rounds out your top 3 forwards. Vatanen, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points for the New Jersey Devils. Blackwood has a .905 save percentage. Demang has an .862 save percentage. Corey Schneider has an .852 save percentage to round things out for the New Jersey Devils. On the Arizona side, Keller, 7 goals, 16 assists to lead their scorers. Schmaltz, 6 goals, 17 assists. Dvorak, 8 goals, 13 assists. Goligoski, 2 goals, 15 assists for 17 points. And people will point out, they being the Arizona fans, that there's no really big scorer on this team. No, but I would also counter with this. If they had a scoring forward of the likes of what they envisioned Kessel to be, I think they'd be better off. Kessel has to be perceived as somewhat of a disappointment with the overall numbers, and his plus-minus is abysmal, meaning 5-on-5 he's been a problem. They do need that star forward. And the funny thing is, when everybody talks about Taylor Hall, I like the idea of sending him to Arizona. I think that would be perfect. The problem is Hall doesn't shoot enough and doesn't get enough goals to make up the difference. He gets a lot of assists, and that's kind of been how his career's gone. He had that 1 year with 39 goals, sure, but in general, he's more of a setup man than a shooter, and yet his kinds of points, I think, would go up. I think his points total would go up with Arizona. They need that star forward, I think, that one guy. Kemper, .935 save percentage in the net. Ronta, .919 save percentage. They've both been excellent for the most part. And really, in all honesty, Arizona, I really think is just that one piece away from being true contending material. Not that I would want to play them in a best-of-7 series right now. All right, moving along. Vancouver is in against San Jose, and here's the interesting thing. 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern. So there's 2 hours between this game and this game. So, I won't have any problem seeing most of this game because everything else is going to end. We're going to have this crazy crunch of games all at once, and then they're all over. And I have a couple hours before I can start the review where I'm just sort of hanging out watching the Canucks play the Sharks. Now, very often the Canucks going on the road through California over their history has been problematic. It hasn't been as bad over the last couple of years. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. They're 16-12-4 the Vancouver Canucks. In October they were 8-3-1, November 5-7-3 overall, and in December 3-2 so far. Now, San Jose, this has been an absolute just craptacular awfulness throughout October and now December. So I mentioned with Buffalo, if you take out November, they have a great record. If you take out November for San Jose, they're miserably bad. They were 4-8-1 in October, 11-4 in November, 0-5-1 in December. So if you take out November, the record would be 4-13-2. That's why Peter DeBoer is gone. That's why they changed the coaching staff. The November run, there's a hot streak in there, made the team feel better. I got the feeling they thought they were better than they were, and now we are back in reality. And it is a harsh reality for San Jose. Now, on the Vancouver front, Pettersson leads them in scoring with 13 goals, 21 assists. Miller, 13 goals, 18 assists. Besser, 11 goals, 18 assists. And while Brock Besser isn't scoring goals the way that you would hope, he is still getting a lot of chances, and he is still putting up points. Quinn Hughes, 2 goals, 22 assists for 24 points for him. Markstrom now has a .918 save percentage and a shutout. And Demko has a .906 save percentage. DiPietro is still up while Demko's dealing with a shutout. Dealing with a concussion. I got a shutout, boys. I'm out of here. Where's Thatcher going? I don't know. We're going to call up DiPietro. So DiPietro, I don't think is going to get a game tomorrow. I think the plan's going to be not to throw him in necessarily, but who knows? Maybe DiPietro gets a game. Maybe he stands on his head like Caden Primo did for Montreal. On the San Jose side, Couture, 10 goals, 20 assists, leads San Jose. Hurdle, 11 goals, 14 assists. Kane, 13 goals, 11 assists. Carlson leads the Blue Liners with 3 goals, 21 assists for 24 points. And it's been a disappointing season thus far for Carlson. We'll see if things get going for him. You need a few more goals. The points overall aren't bad, but they're not top 10 either. And when you're paying $11+ million a year for a guy, it's for some points. Carlson's not being brought in to be your shutdown defenseman. Now, Jones has an .888 save percentage. Dell has an .893 save percentage. This is back-to-back years where Jones cannot get his save percentage to 900. And we're late enough in the season that it just keeps getting more and more difficult. He's played more games, gets more and more difficult to get that save percentage up. So while it may seem like I'm just making fun and just poking fun, it has been a problem for San Jose for a while. So when people say, well, this is on Doug Wilson, I can kind of understand where they're coming from. Jones had miserable numbers last year. I think what hurt was if they'd been knocked out by Vegas in the first round, and if Jones had continually in every game botched it and allowed goals in the first couple of minutes and he just looked terrible, you might have seen Doug Wilson come out this summer and say, all right, I don't have a whole lot of faith in my goaltending. Because Jones turned it around, because they went to round 3, because his numbers were pretty good in the playoffs, the belief would have been, we think Jones can turn it around next year. We think the Jones we saw in the playoffs was the real Martin Jones, the guy we saw in the regular season. He just had some bad breaks. That gets more and more difficult to argue now. But we'll see what they do. So there you go. You guys are all set up. The playoff matchups haven't changed since I talked about it in the review tonight, so I can leave it as it is for now. We'll go through those again tomorrow. Don't forget tomorrow night is Power Rankings night, so that's kind of awesome. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support, especially on, let me load this up. Oh, I gotta reload it. Especially to Gay DeMauro, that's Gae, and Garrett Dell. So there you go. You guys are all set for tomorrow's games, and thank you to those two people on Patreon who donate to this channel and have for a while, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much again. Absolutely amazing. We're going into another weekend here as we get closer to the Christmas break, and some teams are going to have a furious schedule before that break, and I think we're going to see the character tested of quite a few teams along the way, and we may see Taylor Hall traded before Christmas arrives. I will say this. The best time to trade for a guy this big, this huge change to your roster, is now. Not at the trade deadline. You don't want to be bringing him in late February and then have to get him used to it, and the team could struggle. You look at teams that have done that, like you look at Columbus last year. It took a while for Duchesne and Dzingel and these guys to really mesh and make it work. So bring him in now. Make that trade now. Make it happen. So we'll see if that happens over the next 24 hours. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon.